All right, we are live. No, we're not. All right. All right, we are live. We are live. Educational purposes only, not financial advice. Let's dive into this and let's talk about the crazy week that was, which was kind of exciting if you're trading it actively. It did have a few hiccups in it, and you had to be patient, very patient, and to capitalize. But let's just look through the indexes and a few of the big names and just show you how I viewed it. So I really didn't get myself off sides. I did miss a great play at the end of yesterday because I wasn't quite home, but that's my own fault. I could have set an alert. I could have been more aggressive, but going into the holiday, I didn't want to mess up a good week. You don't want to lose your paydays at the end of the week. That's just not what I do, but you just follow your rules and you'll be just fine. So how I was viewing the Q, this is the QQQ on the monthly on the left side, and this is the weekly pivot. So weekly pivots, monthly pivots, these are just 15-minute candles on my weekly. These are 1 hour on my monthly. So this is just a great big picture for what I like to look at every day and know what I've got going on, because that keeps me on the right side of the market most times. Of course, nobody's ever right 100% of the time, but this is just the way I view it on that time frame. So when I look at the monthly, you can see it, and we just jump back to last month. This is the end of last month right here on this pivot. We rallied up right into the pivot at the very end of the month. Okay. Is this a buying opportunity here? Of course it is, because we're holding S1 on the monthly. And if you look, we crossed the weekly pivot on this screen over here. So when you take those two things into account, that is a great buying opportunity that you can utilize and be successful with. And all it is using my levels. I don't care about anything else, the news, anything. I just use my levels because that's my over under, that's my right or wrong. And like I said, once we crossed and held this, we did have some nice fakes, because that's what the market likes to do to people. They like to try to fake you out. But as long as you stick to your game plan, and we're holding the monthly, we're holding the weekly, you're in good shape. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We open the new month, July. I can't believe it's July. We got, what, 7 months to really do a good job, 6 months here to really get after it for the rest of the year. This is where it always gets interesting. When this rallied up here, the QQQ to R2 on the weeklies, we know 100% statistically that we only finish above this level about 10% of weeks. So that tells you that 90% of the time, out of 20 years analyzed, 90%, okay? I can't express that enough to you, and I try to communicate this to all subscribers. 90% of the time, it finishes below that level for the week. Why is that important? I know there's not much meat on the bone up here. Why would I be trying to get long? Like, we're going to keep rallying. Doesn't matter. If it does, it does. But when I hit here on my weekly R2, and I know that I've only got a 10% chance of closing above that level for the week, and I'm running into the monthly pivot, when I put that picture together, the monthly pivot on the left over here, why would I think that I want to buy something right there? I don't. I'm going to let my weekly reset and let my monthly reset, because we're going into July. What happens when we go into July? And these are 1 hour candles with the after hours on, so it shows me all the data. What happens? We get into July and we get below the monthly pivot. Well, of course, we've already left the R2, because 90% of the time we're staying below that anyway. We come down here, and as soon as we break below this monthly pivot, I refuse to be bullish personally until we can reclaim it and use it for support. We were not doing that. We were using it as resistance. Push through, can't hold. Resistance, resistance. I'm going to maximize it for you guys. It's a live video, so I'm not trying to hurry. If you want to learn something and change your trading, stay tuned. Once we close below it, these are just simple 1 hour candles. We can never close on top of it and hold it for support. That's very important. And then we're getting red momentum candles. We're not sitting down here with green momentum candles saying, hey, we're building momentum under the surface. That's not happening at all. What we are doing is falling below and holding it as resistance, okay? So there's no reason for me personally to say, I want to buy because I think, don't think, it gets you killed in trading. Don't think, doesn't matter. I think Iran, I think the oil reserves, I think you can think yourself into some bad ideas. What I know for sure is I'm going to be bearish below this level or bullish above it. And I want to see it hold or break below and retest and fell. And that's exactly what we did. We just broke below, we retested, we fell a little bit, we got a quick rally, but then all we do is retest and fell again. Let me show you something really cool, okay? And if you're a TOS user, Thinkorswim, you can do this as well, but I don't know if you know it. So what I like to do is show, okay, this is definitely a bearish setup. Okay, no two ways about it. Going into yesterday, this was bearish. What does it look like if it's a bullish? If I put a minus sign in front of my QQQ, it'll flip this chart upside down for you. And it'll change all my indicators. It has a little problem with some of my overshoots and stuff, but it's going to just flip them upside down and change the trajectory. And this is what a bullish setup would look like. Now, keep this in mind. I'm going to flip the chart upside down. So when I flip it, look, now this is what a bullish setup looks like. We get on top of the pivot and we hold it for support with green candles, okay? So that's bullish. That is me flipping this chart upside down for you so you can see what a bullish setup looks like. We regain the pivot, we retest it, and then we take off. Okay, that's not what we had on Friday. What we had on Friday was a bearish setup here, which it cleans it up a little bit. When it flips upside down, it's a little cumbersome on how it puts the data on there, but it does the best it can with projecting all this stuff that I have. Bearish. So I am not trying to step in front of this freight train unless, hey, we come down here, we jump on top, we retest, then I'm going to start looking up here. When it does this, I'm not trying to buy that at all. And when I go over to my weekly, what was it telling me? Same thing. Same picture. We can't hold R1 as support at all. We just keep wicking through it and crashing below. All we're doing is testing, and then we fall all the way through the pivot. Now, I know we had a beautiful rally after the close and today. The futures market was open, so you're going to see a huge gap up Monday, as long as it holds, and I'll show you that. So when I jump over to my futures on the NQ, now look how beautiful this played. Okay, so I primarily trade the NASDAQ. I love trading the NASDAQ. I use futures, but I also trade the NQ or the QQQ with options. So I do it both ways, but I like to, especially in this environment right now, I do a lot more day trading than I do swing trading. How beautiful has this played? And we'll put the picture side by side so you can see why this is a thing of beauty. Now, why would I want to see the QQQ and the NQ? The QQQ is the ETF of the NASDAQ. The NQ is just the futures of the NASDAQ. So I would keep a close eye on both because I can leverage both levels to make day trades, okay? And make very good just picture of what is going on with this market. So look, the weekly, we're over here. We had Chop City last week, even got below this S3. Now, in my Discord, I was telling people, hey, we only closed below this overshoot level down here, which is this little blue dotted line, 2.5% of the time. 2.5% when I project all these back, we've only closed below that 2.5% of the time. So you've got a 97.5% chance that we close above it for the week. And what's it do? It closes above it. Okay. It fights it off and it gets above it and it stays there for the weekly close right here. Right. Keep that in mind. That's important. Now, the monthly. We were calling these out last month. This level right here, this 300 level, 315. Hey, this is your buy opportunity, your buy opportunity. Am I trying to buy anything up here? No. We break down, we're red below, we come down. Yes, I'm buying support. S1 is a major buy zone on a monthly pivot. You have to buy that. You just have to. Comes back to it. This was the MU earnings, went crazy, comes back down, comes to it. We buy it. Every time it got down here, it was a buying opportunity. Now, flash forward to this week. What do we have? We have monthly S1 here because it goes all the way through the month of June. Here's my weekly pivot over here. I'm staying above the pivot and I'm on monthly support. You buy it. You buy it. I'm holding my weekly pivot over here. I'm holding the red line. I'm holding it. So I can have a bullish lean over there. Okay. I'm holding S1 on my monthly. That's a huge level. You buy it. You can't think, okay, well, what if? And I know I've been there. That's why I've developed this system. You've got to shut all that off. You can go read theories until you're exhausted. And those theories will get you leaning so far one way or the, oh, this market's going to crash. Oh, this market's going to rip. Doesn't matter. It doesn't. You can maybe be a part of that if you have still aligned guts, because you're going to hold through some bad positions to get there. What we are doing is optimizing our entries. Okay. Beautiful hold on this major monthly level. Beautiful. It held it all month in June. Even on this, hey, we're going to scare you out. Doesn't matter. We know our over under. We break below this, then we have different story to talk about, but we don't. We hold it every time. We're just holding. We wick it, we hold. They're just probing, running stops under this. They're going to, market makers are going to run your stops. If you don't know what that is, if you want to be a trader, learn, because that's 99% of the time is your best entry. Okay. They run your stop, they jump back up on a support and they take off. Okay. They love doing that. That's all they did right here with this long wick. They ran everybody's stop and then they take off. Where did that stop end? Right on our monthly support and right at our weekly, right here. These two candles, they line up right at our weekly pivot. Optimal entry. And all you have to do is wait and be patient. It's easy to lose your patience when you sit in front of a screen and you think, I've got to work. I need to make money. I need to do this. Don't do that. Just wait for a level, take your shot, know the rules of the game. Even if you don't score the first point, that doesn't mean we're quitting. That means, hey, we broke below that, didn't work. Okay, we're out. We'll wait for our next setup. The one rule you do not bend is your stop losses. We can bend all the other rules, but we've got to stay really true to our stop losses. So we have optimal entry here. Look how far this thing runs. Where does it run to? It runs right to that monthly pivot over here. That's kind of your top. Okay, after hours, it crept up a little bit. But once again, when I'm telling you, and you've seen it on the QQQ, we were up to the R2. The NQ futures, we overshot it just a little bit. And like I said, those are their brothers, their cousins, they're identical twins, essentially. Okay, the NQ and the QQQ. They're the same product, just traded differently. So if you don't understand that, start grasping those concepts. Now, what happens from there? We know that we only close up here 10% of the time. We roll over, we retest it perfect, and we flush. Why is that important? Well, look how what the monthly pivot does. Okay, let me maximize. I'm trying to really bring you a lot of great information so you can be on the right side of these trades and understand. This monthly pivot breaks down. That's a clear indicator that I am not going to be bullish until one of two things happens. We regain this as support, or what? We find a support. And look where the support was on the monthly. I've got to post like 100 posts about this because you can't draw it up any better. And I mean, I posted these the first day of July. So This is your monthly pivots for July. I sent it out to my paid members. Okay. So they mark these levels on their chart and they know these are good for the whole month. These are our monthly pivots. So I'm going to watch these all month. These are my major levels. Okay. And they really tell me where the trend is. I don't need any other indicator, any other idea to know where the trend is. All I need to know is where my resistance and support is. And when I'm below this pivot, I'm bearish until, like I said, one of two things. I either get back on that pivot and hold it for support, or I go down here and look how beautiful this was. If you got short here at 30,505 and you said, hey, I'm going to be short until one of two things happens. We either jump back on this pivot and it proves me wrong. Okay, that's one. Or we go down here and we find support. And look at, it's all played out in a day and a half. So it's not like it was forever. That's 1,300, 1,200 points of NASDAQ opportunity. Whether you were playing QQQ puts or you were riding contracts, micros or minis from $2 a point to $20 a point, however high you want to leverage it, up to $200 a point if you're trading 10, that's real gain on just simple ideas, no thought process needed. I'm not watching the news and watching CNBC and saying, well, they're saying that this and that. They're going to talk their books. They're going to do what they need to do to make money. Okay. There's some great guys on Twitter that have good theories, but you've got to be with them for a long time to understand their time frames and how they think. And do they play out every time? Not even close. We go down here to 29.336. 29.336 was my pivot level. 29,336. This exact low was 29,328. We missed it by what, 8 points of being perfect? I don't know how it can get any better to make decisions. Okay, so this was step one. We find this major support level here. Okay, now I can be a buyer. And look, from 29.3, we're trading 29.9. That's 600 points that we've ran since we found this yesterday. Now, the big question for me is, okay, we're going into next week. What do I look at and why? How am I going to trade it? I know I'm in between two major levels on my monthly. That matters because now I'm kind of in no man's land. And this is the opportunity that I missed because I was not home. I was driving. Okay. I've got a lot of kids and I got to do a lot of stuff with them. So I just wasn't here. I got here not long after, but at that point I've missed it. We were 200 or 300 points above it. No big deal because I know there's going to be a trillion more setups next week and next month and next year. So there's no reason to cry about this. The other big thing that happened when that found support, look where we never got below our weekly pivot. We missed it by 50 points. Okay. Those are two huge areas to leverage money and take your risk, and a calculated risk. Let's just go through if scenarios. If I shorted here, I know that 30,505 is my level. Okay. If it jumps back up on there and holds it for support, I'm done. My stop loss, if I give it 40 points, I give it 100 points, whatever your risk is based off of your reward. I'm wrong if I shorted here and it does that, but it didn't. Okay. So then we get all the way down here to our first target. And when it's up here, you think, man, are we really going to lose 1,200 points going into the 4th of July weekend? Don't think like that. This is all we need to think. Hey, we're below this, so we're bearish. We know our first support is 29.3. Let's watch it play and see what happens. So what am I going to do if I get here and I buy it? Okay. I buy it at 29.50 340, let's say 340. If it goes below this level, I'm just wrong. It's that simple. Like trading is not a game of perfect. Trading is a game of using your tools and knowing your probabilities. And we know this holds 82% of the time we close above this level on a monthly closing basis. That's pretty good odds. And then plus I have this beautiful big blue line that says, hey, if we get below this and hold it as resistance, you're wrong. Just get out. Okay. Not a big deal. You're not going to win every trade, but you do have to know this is a great buying opportunity. I'm going to take that chance. If it gets below this and starts using it for resistance, I'm out of here. Not a big deal. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And that happens. But when they play this beautiful, you have to capitalize on it. Okay. So with all that in mind, I will be interested. We're sitting in no man's land here. I will be leveraging my weekly once it creates these pivots. These days that they're supposed to be off, the cash market's closed. It messes up my pivot calculations. So these will recalculate for next week. And I'll have new levels for my weekly once Sunday opens at 5 o'clock. And I will see if we hold that pivot, okay, on my weekly. And I'll be using that as my bull bear line. And I'll be using the first target, second target approach, okay? Now, what I won't do is think that on my monthly pivot here, once we reach this level, this will be a very crucial level, 30,505.75. Next week, we hold the weekly pivot and we start marching up here and we get here. All eyes will be right here. We get above this and hold it for support. I will add to my position if I'm long. Now, next week, if we open and we stay below the weekly pivot and we head south, I'll be looking for support here. What you do not want to see is 29,300, let's call it just for easy reference, break. Because if it does, there's going to be more downside to come because that has been the bottom of the market at the end of last month and the beginning of this month. This is the divider between the pivots. You can see they're just slightly offset, okay? Just based on how we closed and opened and everything, that's how they're calculated. If we'd have closed up here, they'd be completely different. But you can see this is a very crucial level in the NASDAQ, 29,300. If that breaks next week, get out of the way. That's no longer support. We'll be below the weekly pivot and we will be looking south. Okay. Now, those two pictures will keep you on the right side of this market next week. Very simple. I'm going to watch my weekly pivot, see if we stay above. Okay. And we run into these upper targets like we did last week. Once we know we find these upper targets, it's time to be taking all of our profits and just letting this play. And especially when we start using it for resistance, you can start getting on the short side of it and riding it down. Okay. Now, maybe next week's not a volatile week. It just trades sideways. There's all kinds of things that can happen. Maybe it's an uber bullish week. Maybe it's an uber bearish week. We do not know. No clue. There's all kinds of stats out there. There's all kinds of things that can get you leaning, but do not lean. Just watch the levels. Okay. That's all I can convey to you on this live to tell you that you want to definitely, sorry, how do you get your candles to change colors? Hey, I have SK. I'm sorry. I just seen your question. This is a custom script that I have put together based on the way I like to see momentum tracked. And those candles change colors based on those metrics. Now, I will tell you this, since he's asking, I'm about to start selling this script, my pivots and my candles, okay? Because this is the disadvantage that you guys have watching this. It's harder, in my opinion, to actually help somebody trade and understand without having these levels on their chart. And I can see all these levels. I can go back and study these levels. As an individual that's watching this from the outside, you cannot see that. And that's hard. So if you're a thinkorswim, SK, I don't know if you are, we can talk about what I'm going to do there and how I'm going to get this to people that are on thinkorswim. So if you're TOS, I do not do TradingView. I've used TradingView once in my life, but I don't have any thing to give you there. So if you're a TradingView guy, I can't help you. But for these, I would definitely be able to get this to you in thinkorswim and get you the momentum candles and the pivots. Yeah, we will talk about that. I'm putting together some ideas. I'm still trying to math it out in my head to where I can get it to you and reasonably, and then help you understand how to use it. It seems very complex, but it's really not as far as how to use the levels. So we will talk about that, and I will get that. So that way you can put it on your ticker of choice. If you're a QQQ trader, SPY trader, SPX, XSP, if you're an IndieX, whatever, Apple, Google, whatever you like to trade, Tesla, doesn't matter. You can project these, and they are so accurate that it just keeps you on the right side. It gives you the edges of that day, that week, that month. And then it also kind of gives you the feel of bullish, bearish, and how you can lean and use these to your advantage. So if you're trying to take your trading to the next level, these will definitely do that in a very simplistic way. We're not interpreting. I've used all kinds of custom indicators and done all kinds of things. And when you start interpreting different things, you can really try to skew it your way. And I never was good at that. I was like, hey, I just need a great level, and then I can leverage from there. So anyway, this is the NASDAQ, and it did just exactly what you want it to do when you are trading it. It moved, and it respected level after level, and that's what we are after. So let's kind of look at the star of the show that didn't care that the NASDAQ was down 700-800 points Friday was the Dow. And this is kind of a different picture, right? Compared to what we just were looking at, the Dow. And for my new traders out there, I want you to understand how many companies are in the Dow versus the NASDAQ, who the biggest leaders are, because they're weighted on percentages. And if you don't know that, figure that stuff out. The Dow, the SPY, the Russell, the NASDAQ, because then not only do you watch the indice, you know the names to watch that are going to move this. Okay. So look, this is a perfect example of what a bullish trade would look like for the month on the Dow, even though the NASDAQ was dying and the VIX stayed at nothing. Stayed down, didn't matter. And there's a lot of theory out there that the Korea fund over there, Korean fund, has $16 or $18 billion in a leveraged ETF on semiconductor chips. And that's what's driving these extreme swings in the NASDAQ. Hey, that's great. Whatever, doesn't matter. All I know is my levels worked really well. And whatever those billionaires and trillionaires have going on, I wish I was part of them, but I'm not. So I'm just going to use this to my advantage, and whatever they unwind or build into, have at it. The Dow traded just, and I always say snuggled up to this pivot. Like it just wouldn't leave it. And these are hourly candles, and they just do not leave. Do you see like how we hold? We just snuggle right up to it and will not let go. When you see a reaction off of a pivot, you see a touch and then a rejection, right? That's a reaction. You wick through it and then you immediately come back down. Well, we opened our new monthly levels and it just held. Every hour was touching. And I'm sure that was overnight. I'd have to look at my stuff here. Yeah, this was all night. It traded sideways. We get to the open and we jump, but look what we do. We hold support. We get green momentum candles on the hour and we go higher. Why would I try to short this? I wouldn't, because we're not below this monthly pivot. I'm not going to fight the big picture idea, especially when we're right to the pivot. Now that we're kind of getting out in the middle of no man's land for the pivot, do we get a break back down or retest, or do we get continuation? Well, that's when I will use my weekly, like I said, these will recalculate. They're not with this day off, it messes things up. I will use this to my advantage next week. If we hold the weekly pivot, I will be looking higher on any particular ticker that I'm looking at. If we don't, I'm going to look lower. Okay. And I'll look for supports down into these targets. That's as simple as it gets. And this for me, I've traded SK, I don't know what you like to trade or how fast you trade or how slow. Okay. Doesn't matter. I've traded tick charts. Okay. That's how fast I've tried to trade, where it does it based off of volume. It produces a candle every so many interactions. Okay. So you can produce candle after candle. You can get down to a 300 ticks creates a candle, and you want to talk about doing some moving. For me personally, I'm kind of to the point in my trading journey that I really love to know where the big picture is. I will do intraday trades. Okay. And I will take those shots, but I really like to know where I can take some bigger leveraged shots if I'm trading whatever. And I don't trade the Dow. Been trading gold and NQ. Yeah, copy that, man. Or SK. But I like to know those bigger zones, because instead of trying to catch all those little ticks, I like to leverage into a spot and say, hey, I'm going to put my chips here. If it's wrong, I'll get out, and then let that ride and take profits as we go. Okay. Either way, whether it's up or down, hey, I know this is a great over under, and I'm going to take a bigger shot. So I really like to watch my weekly and monthly. Now with these pivots, and I don't know if you're aware of this, SK, I've got them all the way down to like 1 hour. Okay. So I can do, like, it projects a new pivot every 1 hour. So if like you're really scalping intraday, you can use that. You can use a 4 hour. The 4 hours are really good. I've been streaming those in my Discord because it produces a new pivot every 4 hours. So every 4 hours on the NQ, you get a new updated set of pivots that run for the next 4 hours. And then again, after that 4 hours, you get another set. And those are extremely accurate. Okay. And that catches a lot of your intraday moves. And sometimes if we're just choppy and we're range bound, I will use those personally. But when we're in a market that's taking some big swings, I love to know these big levels and leverage into that. So when I look at this on the week, you can see we held the weekly pivot. I'm not going to fight that. The only shorting opportunity I had was when we got to R1. Doubt I would have even probably taken that, because we're above the monthly pivot at that point. There's no reason for me to get into that. I would assume we were. I know the month changed over. So let me see. Yeah. So really, you're just wanting to buy back in on this monthly pivot. So it runs in the first target. That's just a profit-taking opportunity. We come back down here to the monthly pivot. That's your next buy. It's over here, but it lines up with these candles. That's your buying opportunities for the next run higher. Okay. So that was the Dow. It didn't care what the NASDAQ was doing. The S&P is always caught in between. And then I'll jump over and look at some gold, just because I have somebody in here that trades that. And I do like to trade gold occasionally, especially after some big swings. But for the S&P, it's always going to be kind of hung between what the NASDAQ's doing and what the Dow and Russell are doing. Okay. Because it is weighted in such a way that it has names out of all of them through it. So tech doesn't affect it as much, or industrial, whatever. It kind of weights itself a little better, and it kind of gets stuck in the middle. And you can see the S&P was kind of choppy, really, in a sense. You get the breakdown, you're below the pivot, you kind of have a short, and it was short Friday because you almost got to these levels, but you didn't. So for me, the S&P would have been just probably a no-go, just because I don't have anything solid. We kind of held the pivot, then couldn't, and it was just really choppy. It didn't look anything like the Dow. The Dow traded across there, jumped on top of it, perfect retest, and took off. The NASDAQ got below it and died. So those were two trading opportunities. This is just, we are chopping with gray candles, nothing exciting. You can see last month it had a great bounce here off of this pivot. And that's all, like I said, risk management, because here to here, what is that, 40 points or so? Yeah, there's about 40 points. So depending on your stops and your risk tolerance, that's going to be a little bit of a spot for you. But when you look over here, we were down here at this overshoot on the week, and that overshoot is an extreme measurement, okay? And we know we only close below that 2.5% of the time, okay? And that's looking at 20 years worth of data. So we know that on the week we're really extended. So this is just a good area to take a shot, and if it gets too far away from you, then you can run off. And 73 down to 60, so that's about 13 points, 14 points of risk. But, you know, then it goes 73 to 74, 58 for almost what, 60, 80 points of upside opportunity. So that's kind of how you weigh this out and you use it. From there, let's just go through a few quick names. I want to look at gold and see what opportunities it had. I didn't even watch gold last week personally. Well, let's just see what it did. So if somebody's trading gold, and I do have a few guys that trade gold in the room, and they watch it quite a bit, especially overnight. They like trading it. It's a little slower, less volatile, and it's been less volatile. But here's your monthly on gold. You can see we hit the overshoot last month, which is a major opportunity to know that that level is going to hold 95 or 96% of the time. When I say hold, it's going to close above it. So that's just a great spot, 39.85. And on the weekly, we were right here at S2. So you've got two levels that are lining up that are just big areas to say, hey, I like to take a shot. Let's look at just all of last month because this month's fresh. And this is just another clear picture. And let me open it up. And like I said, I haven't personally been trading gold and I haven't followed it tight. So gold, we open the new month and what do? We cannot get above that pivot. And when it's not getting above that pivot, do not fight that wind. Even if, okay, hey, I don't want to short gold because of whatever. That's great. Don't short it. Okay. That doesn't mean just because we don't get above the pivot that you have to short it. All right. But I'm not going to fight this headwind until I get above it and I have support. Then I'll go with it. Okay. But I'm not going to try to buy it down here on theories, logics, and ideas that, hey, gold's different this time or whatever, right? I know there's a million different talking heads out there that'll tell you whatever you want to hear. I've got a buddy that owns personally 11,000 ounces of silver, and he traded silver miners and all kinds of stuff when it was taken off and it got up there. And I told him, I said, hey, man, we're up over $100 on silver. Be a great place to take some profit. Hey, and he had all of his theories as why he wasn't. Okay. He's been listening to people and doing all this stuff, and he had made a ton of money. Okay. A ton of money. He didn't take that profit. Now we're trading like $60. Well, it's cut back in half. And I'm like, I talked to him several times. He'd call me. What do you think? It's take profit. If it doesn't come down, you still own your 11,000 ounces of silver. Okay. If it does, you've made your money on your trades and you ride off into the sunset and you'll have dry powder for if it does come back down. Well, like I said, there was a lot of theory there from him, and he's a smart dude. He's been doing it a long time of why it was different and it wasn't going to come back down. That's wonderful. But just trade the lines and you don't have to fight that idea. All right, couldn't hold pivot. What do we do when we get to S1? Is that support? Nope. And this is what I talked about, like the Dow was snuggled up to a pivot. You see how we just cut right through it on the hour? We just cut through it and we get away from it. We gain distance. Okay. Not trying to be long. What am I going to do down here? We try to hold. Okay. And this is a spot that I could have been wrong personally. And let me look at the weekly, because if I'm wanting to buy gold, let's see what it was doing on the weekly though. Let's put the two pictures together just so we've got an idea of where we are right here. We're below the weekly pivot here at this point. Okay. When we get to that here, we are trying to hold this here. So you get a little noise right here. We do break below it. I would have used this as my over under. And once we broke below it, we couldn't hold, then I know I'm wrong. Okay. And then I'm going to be watching over here on the monthly. Let me zoom in just to give you this. So simple if you just follow it. And this is 15-minute candles over here, and this is 1 hour on my monthly. So if I'm using this as my over under, the 42.21, which is a little above this, We don't hold it on the first try. We just go right through it. We jump above it. Now I'm going to watch this retest. We do not hold. We fell. And that gives me a much clearer picture on this monthly, because once we fell the weekly S1, we're already cutting through the monthly here. And then look, consolidation underneath. We're snuggled up to it. So for me, that's a beware scenario. Like, hey, we're not just breaking through it and running. We're snuggled here, and we come all the way down almost to the overshoot. And we know when we're down here, like I said, this is an area that we don't close down in here much, if ever. You know, like I said, we only close below it about 2.5% of the time. We only close below this about 8% of the time, I believe. And you'll get all those stats, SK, if I get these to you, but you can populate them on your screen. I have them over here on this one, but it's only for 30 days. When you put it on 20 year 1 day chart, it gives you 20 years worth of data over here. But anyway, so we come down and we have some gyrations. Okay. Now what do? This would be my spot, because we're out here in no man's land. We're between S2 on the monthly and our overshoot. So we know we're down here. We know for the month that we are statistically, we're not staying down here much. Okay. Here's my over under right here for this trade right here. We get all this consolidation. We finally hold this on a retest, and the candles get green. You go from neutral. So when they're red over here on the monthly. That's like Big Brother. I'm not trying to fight that. We get gray, so they're neutral. Now we start finding green over here. We hold a level, and now we rip. Okay. That's a great gold trade, but boy, you had to have some patience right here and here, because when you get down here and you're trying to buy this, if it's chopping you up, you really have to wait until you get a good hold of that level. And you kind of had one here, and then you get a retest. So you're like, and then we take off. So those are things that you've got to know. Two things. One, I need a good hold and retest here. And two, for the month, we are way down here. Statistically, we do not close below this level often. We don't close below this level hardly at all. You can almost call it ever, but it's not. It's 2.5% of the time. The beautiful thing that it does here, though, is it gets on S2 and consolidates. And I love that. When we do that, we're showing a lot of support right here. And then, of course, you blast off higher. So gold's been a tricky one. We never get quite to that level. But I'll tell you what it does do, I bet. We come across here and we trade sideways. We're in no man's land. But look what happens when we break this weekly pivot and it holds. We get red candles over here on our hourly, and we break and we turn red on our 15-minute, and we get these retest, and then we die. And we come all the way down here to first target. So do not fight. When we're on the monthly, we want to know our big levels. And then we're on the weekly, we don't want to fight this pivot. I used to never, ever look for a bullish trade until on the weekly we were above this line. Ever. Okay. And then I developed into making my levels a lot more accurate and knowing my percentages. And once I did that, I found a lot of great trades here, right? Like this is a great scalp trade if you're trading gold. 4140, it runs to almost 4,200. That's 60 points on gold, whether you're trading a mini or a micro, $10 a point or 100. That's a great trade. Okay. And it's an easy one because we're here. We know that statistically on the month, we're way down here. We're not going to finish down here much, and we get a good bounce. Now, does that bounce play out? No. Look what happens the next week on gold. We cannot get above that weekly pivot, and that's why they're so important. Yes, I will have this video saved. I'll publish it into my stuff, and it will be here. And yeah, I'll make sure you can find it. If you have any problem, just let me know. But yes, it'll be saved. But here's the same thing for the week. It will not. And when I tell you this, pay attention to these red lines. It will not cross these lines. It will not. It comes up here and fails weekly, and we're trading right on this S1, but we know this is now resistance until proven otherwise. And look where we go. Come all the way down here. And just, you have to buy gold here. You have to, and this is why. We're at the weekly S2. Okay, so we know statistically we don't finish down here. Hey, awesome, SK. We'll talk about those indicators. So I'll get it put out and published to what we can do. And if you want to message me on Substack, send me a direct message and we can talk that way as well. It will not, it's holding your overshoot, which we know that 97% of the time we're going to finish above this. Okay, 97.5. Just make it easy and say 97. And we're down here at our weekly S2. That is a have to buy gold area. You have to take that chance. And you got a bounce of 39.85 to 41.11. That's a huge bounce in gold. That's a huge bounce. If I zoom this, like, look how big this bounce is. That is a giant bounce if you're playing gold. And it's easy because, hey, I'm wrong. If I get below this, now all I got to do is wonder where I'm taking profit. Well, it's pretty easy. Over here on the weekly, we run into the S1. That's your profit. Like, I'm going to get out here, or at least get out of some of my position and see what I want to do moving forward. So those are ways to trade that. I have been on here talking a long time. There's a lot to cover and a lot that I like to look at, and I could go on for days, but I won't do that. I will conclude this here. And I know that MU, AMD, TSM, all the semiconductors were a big topic. Then you've got your software on the other side, IGV names, Microsoft, all that stuff that's having another way. There's a lot being, digested in the market right now. A lot. Don't get caught up in the noise. Trade the line, not the hope. I always put that out. Trade the line, not the hope. Like, man, I hope it goes up or I hope it goes down. I think it's going to do this. I think it's going to do that. Don't do that. Do not. It will blow you up every time. Trade the lines and set some rules for yourself. And if you get these, you can study them. Set some rules for yourself. And like I said, you can bend every other part of your trading program. Okay. It's not quite to the line, but I want to buy it. Okay. Perfect. But I know that my stop loss is below this line. Don't bend that rule. Just don't. Hey, I want to be bullish mid-level for whatever reason. Okay, that's fine. If you want to do that, I don't recommend that. That's kind of a bad example. But if you do that, know your stop loss. Okay. Know where you're wrong. A good trader will be able to tell you where he is wrong. It doesn't matter if you're right. Hey, this is where I'm wrong. I'm wrong if we break down below this, and it held that level just perfect. Have the patience, P-A-Y, to sit here and wait for your levels to set up and then learn how to use them to take profit, okay? Set some rules and understand how to use this. And if you know the percentages, like I said, when I'm down here on this monthly on gold, I know that statistically, we just do not close down here 2.5% of the time. Why would I try to short that? Okay, if anything, I'm not going to short it. If anything in the world, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't mean I have to buy it, but it does mean that I'm not going to short it because I've only got a 2.5% chance of being correct. That's over 20 years of data. That's not me talking. That's the data talking. Okay. So know that and understand it. Hey, it's been awesome. We will talk more. I will get some stuff put together to where I can get these indicators to you. Like I said, for Thinkorswim only. And then I want to get in my Discord and trade together and see what you're watching, how you're interpreting it, and help you understand how I use it. And it's going to be much easier for you as a trader to have this on your screen and follow your favorite stuff and go back and study. Study. That's what I do all the time. I go back and I look at these levels and how accurate they are, how they interacted, and I put together a game plan. And I've done that for a long time now. And that's why I know I'm not trying to be bullish below this line until I find a support, because this is what gets you killed, right? I think it's going to hold. We're trading sideways. We're consolidating and squeezing, blah, blah, blah. No, we don't have a level here. This is where my next opportunity is. I don't care about anything else here at all. If we come down here and then we rip up here above it, great. That just gives me an opportunity to get entry if we have a good retest and take off. Perfect. Not a big deal. This is the only place I can be bullish. And the reason I can be bullish there is because I know that this holds about 80% of the time, or we close above it. And two, I know where I'm wrong. If it breaks below that, I'm out of here. I don't need to know what it's going to do. I'm going to wait for my next either support or hold and go. Then I'll be right. Okay. With all that said, thanks for joining, guys. I hope this helps you, and I will publish this. And as always, we will talk soon.